We have got to stop victim shaming. This is kind of a longer video, so I apologize in advance. Alright, here's what I mean by that. The average person goes through 3 to 4 critical incidents or life-changing events in their entire lifetime. Immediately after somebody goes through one of these life-changing events, that is not the time to correct them on what they should have done. And it's not the time to put in your own input on what you would have done in that situation. I know, there's so many people out there that cry wolf, but if somebody's telling you about a traumatic incident that they've been through, consider that an honor. The only thing that you should be doing in this situation is shutting up and listening. Reassure them that they're okay and that they did the right thing to make it out of that alive. Now, when they're telling you this story, there's a good chance it's going to sound a little ridiculous. Imagine, if you will, somebody decided to write down their entire story on a sticky notepad. Then before they allowed you to read the sticky notes, they stuck them randomly on a wall in an order that you don't understand. It is now your job to go through each individual sticky note and try to put it back in chronological order. This is what happens to a trauma victim's brain whenever they're going through their scenario. So take that into account when somebody is actually confiding in you with their story. It's okay to ask questions to clarify the story, but under no circumstance do you make it sound like that you don't believe them, because they may not trust you to tell you the next time that something happens. So now raises the question, when exactly is an appropriate time to inform someone that they could handle the situation better next time? First, they have to process the traumatic event that happened. Once they process the traumatic event, you can always circle back around and ask the question, what are some things that you wish that you'd have known whenever you had that situation? Or you can also ask, I know you're constantly replaying this event in your mind, so what are some things that you wish that could have gone different? Trust me, they're already thinking these things and doubting themselves. So when this conversation happens, make sure that you're constantly reassuring them that what they did at the time was the right thing. Then you can say words to the effect, well, let's go through this together and we can figure out a way to better handle this situation should it ever arise again. This is done in the military and law enforcement community quite often. It's called an after-action review. Remember, during this conversation, you still have to be very careful that you don't do any victim blaming. And unfortunately, there are some situations that you just can't control. If that's the case, then you need to make sure that you tell them that. If they seem like that they're not processing their trauma very well, you need to recommend them to a mental health professional. And not just any mental health professional, make sure that you get a mental health professional that specializes in trauma and E.M.D.R. And for those of you that don't know, E.M.D.R stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing. It is the #1 treatment for trauma. Recently, even the VA has picked it up. I've gone through it myself, so I can tell you that it works. Now, if it doesn't work on you the first time, that's okay, try it again. And make sure that you pick a mental health professional that you're comfortable with. It's okay if it takes 6 sessions with your mental health professional before you actually feel comfortable enough around them to tell them your story. One thing to keep in mind is everybody processes trauma differently. They call it PTSD, which stands for a disorder, and I don't agree with that at all. As a friend of mine once said, it should be called PTSI, which would stand for injury. The reason why I agree with him on that is because an injury can be healed. A disorder usually means that you're stuck with it for life, and trauma being stored in the brain can absolutely be healed. If anybody on here is actually suffering from a traumatic event, feel free to reach out to me. If you don't want to drop a comment, that's fine. Private message me. I can try my best to give you a recommendation of somebody that's local to you. I've met a lot of wonderful people and made quite a few really good connections over my career. Because of that, I happen to know people from all over the country that specialize in this stuff.